Welcome, everybody, and we are fired up for another sensational college football matchup. Nobody at home today who can stake their claim in this neutral site showdown. We've got a top 25 matchup on hand. Two of the premier teams in the land looking to make a statement that will resonate. As we'll see, the number 13 team in the country, the Florida Gators, taking on the 7th-ranked team in the land, the Virginia Tech Hokies. For EA Sports College Football, Reese Davis with you alongside David Pollack and Jesse Palmer. Time to get this game started. The Gators will get us started with the opening kickoff. The kickoff bounces through the end zone. They'll bring it out to the 25. Line gets set. First down. They'll start this drive with a pass. Quarterback adapting. He'll pull it down on the shovel. He will step out of bounds, but not before the big pickup and a first down for this offense. He keeps throwing it like this for the Hokies, and the defense will have to sleep with one eye open.
And the defense is going to have to grip those pillows tight, because when the QB gets going and spinning it with the ability to run the football too, and the diversity of this offense, it can be tough, and the Hokies fans will be excited.
Tip ball, put it up for grabs, and I thought he had it, but somehow it slithered through his fingers. Really need positive yards on second down. After the incompletion, they'll snap it from the 44. One back in the backfield, he gets the carry. A pickup of 8 now to convert this 3rd and 2.
Listen, you got to be able to know what play to call and what hole to go through. Like the line blocks for a certain hole. Good job getting through the hole, getting what was blocked, getting a nice positive gain, making your situation really good on the next down.
Wide receiver shows motion. On 3rd and short, the power run here. He's got first down yardage as they move it to the 44.
And I think on that last run play on 3rd down here early in the game, they're making a statement that we believe we're the more physical team and we're going to run the football even if you know it's coming at you. Nice job. They've got the ball at midfield. I expect to see more run plays coming up.
Quarterback reacting to what the D is showing. A solid pickup there before the defense is able to make the stop. People like to say conference affiliation doesn't matter. But you get the SEC against the Big Ten, and there's no denying there's a little extra juice in the building.
Definitely extra juice. The best two conferences, the biggest conferences, Palmer. Everybody talks about these being the power brokers and deciding the future of college football. So, yes, it matters.
A lot of blue bloods in both conferences, David, you're right. I think it's something players are also very aware of, too, is having that conference pride, wanting to win this game, representing the rest of the teams in their conference.
Second down coming up. Linebackers trying to create some confusion. He'll toss it. Past the 30. Finally run out of bounds, but he has this offense rolling with a first down.
I think it's really important for this offense. They get this guy going early in the game, and they're doing a nice job of that right now. Remember, he's the kind of running back who gets better as the game goes on. That's a really good omen for this offense, considering his success now early.
And a good, solid pickup there before the defense knocks him down.
And a nice job by the running back, finding space, getting downhill, making the good run. Great job finishing with his pads.
Single back formation, and they give it to him. Dude, he's already picked up 46 yards rushing already. What a way to start this new season.
The coaches told us in pregame that they love this back's mixture of speed and power. Listen, he's not the power back all the time, but he's moving so fast that it's hard to get him to the ground.
Barrels ahead. And he takes it to the house. Touchdown, Hokies. They strike first, and that opening drive of the season could not have gone better.
That's so frustrating for the opposing offense, too, because you're just salivating. You're just waiting for an opportunity to get on the field. The offense possessed it the entire first quarter and then capped it off with a touchdown. That was amazing.
They'll try to add another to their lead. And he's got the extra point, and it's 7-0 to start this one. So it's an 80-yard drive, and they capped it off with a 1-yard plunge. About to kick it off after punching it in for the touchdown. On the move from inside his 5. And the returner will be knocked down. A first down for the offense. They're going to open this drive with a pass. He's going to take a shot right away. That was an eyelash away from being picked off, and that is not the way to set the tone with a near pick on your opening drive.
Yeah, and I love taking deep shots. I think it makes quarterbacks play honest, safeties play honest, and you could tell just missed a little bit deep on that shot. But listen, those are shots that we want to take because the risk is definitely worth the reward.
Out of the shotgun, they go to the ground. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage.
Awesome job up front by this defensive line, being so good at the point of attack and eating blocks, eating some double teams that allows these linebackers to run free, unencumbered, and get to the football.
On third down, he'll try to pick it up through the air. Makes the grab inside the 30. Right down the gut of the field. Touchdown, Florida. And once he found daylight, it was Katie bar the door, baby.
And listen, find your matchups you like, and you can see you got your speedster out wide. You like the matchup. He sees it, puts some air underneath that thing, and he outruns the DB. He's got no shot. Runs underneath it, and then walks his way into the end zone for 6.
And we're all square as he's set to kick it away. He'll bring it back from inside his 5. And he did a good job bobbing and weaving and finding a little bit of running room on that return. Offense set on first down. They'll move the running back to try to force the defense to adjust. And after the tackle, that will bring us to the end of the first quarter. We've got a good one going here. I'm looking forward to keep those vibes rolling here in the second. Second down here as they go back to work after the break. Linebackers shuffling around, trying to keep the quarterback from getting a read. That pass is incomplete, and they're probably fortunate that it wasn't knocked free for a fumble. They've made third down offense a key. It'll be tested on 3rd and long from the 28. They're trying to get to it. They get enough rush, and it pays off. The sack at the 20. And the Hokies will line up to punt it away. 3 and out, and not much choice but to get rid of the ball. Slips through the line. Excellent coverage that time. Didn't give him any room to set up a big return. The Gators sending the offense back to work. How big is this drive? Scored a touchdown the last time they had it. Defense gets a stop, and now it's up to them in a tie game.
All right, so if you're the offensive coordinator here, let's dial it in. Who are your best matchups and best playmakers to take advantage of this golden opportunity?
Yeah, and I'm interested to see this defense, too. Like, the momentum is clearly not in your favor. How do you get it back? How do you make a big play? Do you be more aggressive here to try to get the football back to your offense?
To the air on first down. They're bringing heat. Trying to escape and get it himself. This is the kind of game, a top 25 matchup in the early season, that you look for when you're trying to build your resume.
Yeah, these are so fun because as a player you kind of get bored if you don't get the challenge. But when you got an early season challenge like this, all the adrenaline.
Lets it fly. He caught it. Gets it inside the 5, down to the 4, and it'll be first and goal. And the Gators in the hurry-up. They'll run it on first and goal. They bring him down, and he's going to lose a yard on that one. And the D deny them on second and goal. To throw, it's Dalton. Quarterback strolling away from heat. He's in a world of trouble, and down he goes. A catastrophic loss on that play.
That is just what you want defensively, right? Bend, don't break. They drove down the field a little bit. They got second and goal. Boom. Create that negative play. Now they got third and goal. Now they got to make some decisions. Do they want to be conservative? Do they want to be aggressive? Either way, an advantageous situation now for this defense.
Pulled down for the tackle. And as they come to the line of scrimmage here, you can take the lead with the field goal, but a touchdown here gives you extra cushion. Here's the snap, looking to throw. Here he goes, breaking the pocket. Looking to the end zone. Throws it back across his body, and what do you think happened? Intercepted.
I tell you what, as a quarterback, you gotta have a short memory. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be asked to do a lot, and he throws his first career interception. If I'm the coach on the sideline, listen, I'm bringing him over. This ain't going to be your last, big fella. Like, you're going to make mistakes. It's okay. Put it behind you. Next play.
They make the stop right there. Good pickup. It's still short of the first down.
Guys out of the backfield now, it's not just run the ball downhill anymore. You got to be versatile. I got to be able to trust you in the pass game, and I got to be able to throw you the football, and you can do that right there. I know you're going to catch it, and I can depend on it.
Quarterback wants to throw on second down. Hits him inside the 20, still going. And he takes it all the way. They couldn't stop him. Touchdown, Virginia Tech.
Sometimes it's players, not plays, or sometimes it's both. And when you got that guy and you put him in the slot and you let him burn for a go route right past a nickel corner or one of the reserve corners or a safety, that's a great job by the offense, and that speed you can't teach, and that's why he's in the house for 6.
We check in with Kevin Connors. What's going on, Kevin?
All right, guys, a little update on what else is happening in college football this weekend. Texas Tech is showing little remorse for its opponent today. Feels like ever since they arrived at the stadium, that Red Raiders offense has been a buzzsaw. They're up 14 over the Pandas. We've got our eye on things here and everything else going on right now, and any updates, you'll see them here, guys.
Thanks for the update on that one, Kevin. Let us know when it goes final. First down here with time for maybe one more play until the 2-minute warning. The offense will have to use its first timeout of the half. First down here with time for maybe one more play until the 2-minute warning. Power football with the run. And that's why you do explosive work in the weight room. Arm day's a good thing as he gets to the 23. Line line getting set on second down. He's got it again. He's there to make the stop.
And just a great job on the defense of being stout, right? That's your job. Be stout up front, stuff in the run play, make them get in more passing situations, but do not let them run the football. That's 101. Stop the run first.
And boy, is he close to that first down, maybe just a couple of inches short. They're in their own territory, but they only need a few inches, and this is why you have a prominent jawline and an urgent resolve. They'll go for it. The Gators get it past the sticks.
How's that for being aggressive? Early in the game, fourth down, in your own territory, and you go for it. And then your offense is able to come up with the big play, generate a ton of momentum, and stay on the field. That is impressive.
The Gators will line it up on 1st and 10. He wants to throw. Trying to get to him. And it'll be incomplete. He got on the move trying to make something happen, but just couldn't find a man.
Man, this quarterback is living dangerously right now. Obviously, he threw a pick on the last drive. He's trying to complete that throw, but the defender gets a hand on it, tips it up in the air. That's oh-no. That is an oh-no situation. They're lucky that one hit the ground.
And the pass rush is effective, and they tackle him at the 19. IndyCar tempo as they head to the line for this third down play. Clock running. These corners backing off a bit. Oh, he's going to try to hit him deep. Catch inside the 30 and still running. Off he goes. Touchdown, Gator. And once he got away from the D, they had no shot at catching him.
Yeah, and the passing game comes through, man, and we need more of that in the second half. An extra point away from tying this football game. We trailed a little bit in the first half, stayed calm. If this passing game can continue to heat up, look out in the second half.
So they got the touchdown, and as they kick off, really important for the defense to shut them down here. That ball skips through the end zone. It's a touchback, and they'll take over at the 25-yard line. And we're about to get another look at this Hokie offense. The way this game started, you feel as if you have to score a touchdown every time you have it, and now we'll see if they can respond.
Yeah, and I wonder how much pressure that puts on the offense. Jesse, like, you know this is back and forth, and I got to score, and every possession matters so much. What does that do to you as a quarterback?
Well, it puts a lot more pressure on you for sure to feel like I got to make every third down throw. If guys are open vertically down the field, I got to hit them too. We can't let our serve get broken.
Nice job by the defense. You got to dial into your keys. You got to make sure you're reading those guys up front. They did a good job. They saw it. They pulled the trigger. They knew the quarterback had it. They weren't fooled. Strung it out. Did a nice job of limiting the damage with that QB run.
He wants to take the top off. And it slips through his fingers, incomplete. That would have been a huge gain if he could have squeezed it.
Well, on defense, they know that this offense is going to try and take shots. They're going to try and keep their secondary players in a position to make these types of plays. Good job on the back end forcing that incomplete.
Looking deep down the right side. And that ball is hauled in inside the 35. The offense will have to use its first timeout of the half.
Really nice timing on that throw. Quarterback had to hold it, allow his receiver to work his route, but he threw it at the perfect moment so that he was able to make the catch inbounds right on the sideline.
Working that left side now. That's about as close as you can get to that marker, and it will be second and just a few breaths away from the first down. He's looking to throw. Pocket starts to collapse. They make the stop, but he knew exactly how much he needed and where he needed to get for that first down. We've got a timeout in the waning seconds of the half, maybe a chance to get off a couple more plays. The defense going to stop the clock with a timeout. They want to make sure they have everybody on the same page. So it's first down, but with just a few seconds, they'll try to put up a 3 before halftime. From the left hash, he'll try to bend in a 37-yarder. Never a doubt. And with that field goal, they now have the lead. So after putting 3 on the board, the kickoff team is out there ready to boot it away. No reason to risk trying to field that one as it skips through the end zone. It'll be a touchback. One more snap coming before halftime. These DBs going to give a little cushion. He'll come out throwing on first down. He fires it out to the right. Incomplete. They took a shot to wrap up the half and came up empty. That's going to wrap up the first half here, and now we join Kevin with the halftime update. The Hokies will boot it away to start the second half. He'll start the return inside his 5. And they'll bring him down to get the offense started on the next drive. Looking for a productive play on first down. He's going to pass. Moving out of the pocket. Buying some time. And he's left with no option but to throw it away.
And that goes down as incompletion, but that's a smart play. And the QB coach and the OC will be very happy with the decision of the quarterback. He got outside the pocket. He obviously, so he's outside the tackle boxes. He knew he could throw it away as long as he got it past the line of scrimmage. Nothing there, nothing open. Live to fight another down.
Only a couple there, and now staring at 3rd and 8.
And these little touch passes, man, they're just the easiest completions ever for quarterbacks. Palmer, I bet you would have loved being able to just flip it forward. That counts as to your completion percentage, which is good. And then it's all run after the catch, so pretty easy for a QB.
You wouldn't have been the only All-American in this booth, David, if I were allowed to have push passes when I was playing quarterback. I'll tell you that. It is so hard to defend. It's so hard to seal that edge, especially when this guy's full speed ahead going around the inside.
And he couldn't quite get to the marker, and that's going to bring up a 4th down. On 4th down, flexing that muscle in the run game. They stop him short of the marker, and they'll turn it over on downs.
I'll tell you, man, analytics in college football now are changing the way coaches think about down and distances. And listen, I know there are probably some metrics out there that say you should go for it in that situation because the percentages are telling you you got a good shot at keeping the football and keeping possession. That time, though, they're not able to come up with it. They've now given up the football with their backs to the wall. The defense now is going to have to dig them out of this hole.
If I'm building an offense in today's football, it's not around a quarterback that can. I'm going to find an athlete that I can give the ball because defensively, it starts to limit your coverages. It starts to limit what I can do. It makes me play the quarterback every single play. It just makes your job as a defensive coordinator extremely hard.
They started in a great spot, but now facing a 3rd and 4. Looking for space. It's Owen. Headed to the end zone. And he's sprinting. He'll take it all the way. Touchdown, Hokies.
And the offense continues to run the football. The second rushing touchdown from the running back. The offensive line paving holes continue to feed this man the ball.
They'll try to tack one more on their score. And with the extra point, they're now up by a touchdown and a field goal at 10. And let's check in with Kevin Connors in the studio. Kevin?
Guys, let's take a look at what's happening in a great college football matchup. Utah State is currently trailing in this one, but it feels like the tide may be turning. These Aggies have picked themselves up before, and they're capable of it again today. It's a close one right now. They're trailing by 1 to Western Kentucky. Your boy KC has you covered here in studio, guys, in case anything changes in this one.
Oh, and how about that? I know Kevin and those guys will be keeping an eye on it for us. Florida has the ball back, and here comes the offense. The deficit here is just 10 points, David, so a chance to looking to take a shot. He's got it inside the 30. A giant chunk of yardage picked up there, and they're down to the 24. And the Gators want to crank the tempo. Going up top on first down. He's going to take off.
Welcome to the frustrating reality of college football. Like, the guy at the quarterback spot, he can just do that. Pull it down, get positive yards, makes the defense have to account for him every single play.
And he's all bottled up, and now it's worse. The ball's loose. They recover their own fumble. Somehow, who knows how they got that thing back.
And those are so frustrating when you're a defense and you swarm to the football, and you stick the quarterback and you make him cough it up just to have the other team recover it again, and you don't get it. Still a good stick, still a good physical play. Keep hitting that quarterback.
And they fail to hook up on third down. A famous writer once said, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Here is a desperate move, going for it on fourth down, trailing by double figures. He'll try to throw and pick up the first down. He's got it. Woo, boy, this freshman quarterback has a hose. Did he sing that thing in there? From the red zone, looking for a man. And the defense holds firm. No pickup at all on that play. Operating in the red zone here on second down. Looking for a physical attack from the gun. Brought down after a 5-yard gain down to the 7.
And, you know, when we talk about great third down defenses, it really starts with them getting stops on first and second down. You've got to get those stops early in the drives to set up third and long, so that's a missed opportunity on that second down by this defense.
Dances away from the heat. Still on his feet. That pass not close as he got drilled trying to deliver it, and it'll bring up fourth down.
Yeah, and third and short, they choose not to run, throw the football, and I think a lot of that has to do with they know they're in field goal range. They can take the 3 points on the board.
It's good, and that was dead solid purpose. After putting up the field goal, they're set to kick it away. And the ball will make it into the end zone. No return on that one for a touchback. Virginia Tech sends the offense onto the field. Boy, David, they would love to stack another touchdown on top of that last drive.
And this offense did such a good job on the last drive. Everything in rhythm, moved the ball down the field, didn't make those mistakes, Jesse, and they need to do it again on this one.
Yeah, you're right. They had the defense on their heels. You wonder what sort of communication was going on that sideline. What sort of changes were they able to make, because they got to stop the bleeding right now.
Here on second and short. Movement from the linebackers trying to mess with the offensive line's assignments. Gonna let it fly. Holds it in on the left. Plenty of room on that play, and they find their way to the 36. And the Hokies headed quickly to the line. Receiver on the move gets the touch pass. You'll take 4 yards on first down every time, 2nd and 6. Fast motion from the offense. The give from the gun. Dragged down to the turf, but not before getting the first down.
It's a point in the game, I think, as a coaching staff, where you really challenge your offensive line to go win the football game, right? We've got to lead late. We're going to run the football. And the defense and everybody in the stadium knows that's what's going to happen. Can we run the ball down their throats and impose our will? That's what this offense right now is trying to do.
Finds a little bit of room. Give him a couple down to the 23.
At this point of the game, the offense has the lead. The offensive coordinator knows they want to keep running the football. So he's going back, he's looking at his playlist, and he's saying, which runs work the best for me in this game? What can I lean on right here to make sure we win this one?
He was able to squirt free and pick up just a few on that one.
Well, great job there by the defense because they weren't able to get him sacked right away, but you saw the coverage in the back end. Nowhere for the quarterback to throw the football. Didn't get the sack, obviously. You don't get the negative play, but you also don't give up a big one. You're feeling pretty good about where you are right now in this drive.
Tough sledding in there. Picks up a couple, but still needs 2 more on 4th down. So here we are on 4th down, and this field goal kicker is going to face all the pressure in the world. It's good. He hit that one right down the middle. And they'll push that lead out a little further. After that last field goal drive, they're set to kick it away.
You know, it's funny, in an age where there's so many college football analytics and everybody wants to go for it on 4th down, at the end of the day, it still comes down to managing the game. Good decision by the head coach here in the 4th quarter. By kicking that field goal, you've now made it a 2-possession game. Your chances of winning this thing have now gone way up.
The Gators sending the offense back to work. They had to settle for the chip shot field goal last time, Jesse. They loved it. And he is snowed under. Sacked at the 7. Hoping to find one that works this time on 2nd down from the 7. Looking downfield, it's Dalton. He's going up top. And it's intercepted. A turnover for the defense. Got room on the return. Inside the 30. The 10. And he's going to run it all the way back. Touchdown, Virginia Tech.
And that just might do it. Man, offense needed points badly. Defense comes up with the big interception, takes it all the way back just to pad their lead a little bit and make this game almost out of reach.
Lining up for the PAT. And that extra point is a big one as they now have a 3-possession, 17-point lead in the 4th. They're lining up to kick it off after the pick 6, and that defense will come out feeling it. Here he comes from inside his own 5. And good work by the coverage team to knock down the return man. Florida has the ball back, and here comes the offense. Well, the good news is they threw a touchdown pass last time. It was just to the wrong team, Jesse.
Well, that's an unfortunate part of the game for quarterbacks, but guess what? They do happen, so you've got to be able...
He's going to let one fly down the middle. And it slips through his fingers, incomplete. That would have been a huge gain if he could have held on.
At this point of the game in the 4th quarter, it is going to be tough for this offense to get some completions here because now, trailing by this much, the defense is expecting pass, and they're putting a whole bunch of extra DBs on the field to help them out in coverage.
2nd down here, and maybe they've got time to get one more snap off before the 2-minute warning. Looking for a man, it's Dalton. Going back to the well, another deep ball. We've reached the 2-minute warning, and we see miracles in college football all of the time, and they could use one here. Now on 3rd and 10, if they can move the chains here, maybe they can get this drive started. From the gun, wants to pass. He's going to run it. Picks up the first down and gets down to avoid contact.
He does a good job of dropping back, going through his progressions. Nothing there. What do? Go get some yardage. Make it positive. Don't sit back in the pocket and force something into a bad situation or take a sack. Great job making something out of nothing.
He's going up top here late in the game. And he is finding wide open defenders all over the field. His 3rd interception of the day.
Heat up them pass rushers, bring in them DBs. That's what I'm doing in this situation. When I got the lead by a couple scores late in the ball game, in the 4th quarter, I'm going to rush the passer like crazy. I'm going to put all those DBs back playing the pass. That's what happened. Great job understanding they're going to have to take shots. We get the interception. This one's almost over.
No mystery on that play. With the lead, we are going to run the ball. You know it's coming, and we are running right at you, right into the teeth of the defense, and they're still able to get a nice game.
The lone back's got it. He is tackled, but it'll be a fresh set of downs.
This offense all game long has been running really well, and I'm really impressed by how well they've recruited at the running back position. They've got some dynamic players coming into the game at different points, spelling each other, keeping each other fresh. They're hurting this defense.
Looking to go up top on 1st down. He'll try to do it himself. He's run out of bounds, but a big play on that one, and it'll be a 1st down. They get a big win here and start the season on a positive note.
You got to love that as the players. You come out, you have so much anticipation coming into the season, finally getting ready to play in front of a live audience. You're able to come out and execute and get this win under your belt. David, couldn't be a better way to start the year.
And for the losing team, obviously, it's a little bit different. You have something to look at now to analyze where do I need to get a little bit better, but plenty of time still left in the season to improve and turn it around.
That's going to do it for us from here. For Jesse Palmer, David Pollack, I'm Reese Davis, and this has been another presentation of EA Sports College Football.